Those who want to go green can go green. I guess I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled December 15th Board of Public Works meeting, beginning with the invocation. Lord, thanks for all you provide us. We seek to gain wisdom from the experience you assign each of us and use this to prosper in all we do. We ask that you guide our thoughts to make the lives of all we encounter as fulfilling as possible. Guide our thoughts for this meeting to come to a logical and just conclusion for all involved. Also, thank you for keeping our workers safe as you continue to watch over us. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I get a motion to approve the listed items in the consent agenda. And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any comments from the audience? Oh. If we could start with your general manager report, Darren, that'd be great.
Excellent. So we've got two things kind of on they're big projects. Number one, Northeast Generation Project. We are in the midst of it. You're not going to see a whole lot of dirt turning for a while. There's two things that are going on. Number one, there's the Fulton Energy Center that we are participating in. MPUA is the organization that is responsible for the entire project. We are 42% of the ownership of that project, which means we're also 42% owner of that Fulton. Fulton is able to move quicker. They actually have a industrial site where they already have generators on site. Their generators are some big Wärtsilä and other combustion engine generators that aren't as efficient. They're getting very old, end of their life. They are able to supply both the fuel oil and the natural gas to the site existing, so they're able to go first and get it done. They're putting in a solar 130, and that will produce right around 15 to 16 megawatts of power. Ours we're looking at is doing a total of 235s for 70 for the first phase. Timing-wise, they've already ordered the generators, the turbines. They're going to be doing their engineering beginning almost immediately. They've already hired the engineer as of 11/25/25. Early summer is the targeted construction date of 2026. So it'll take about a year for the engineering to be completed and done. And then the units themselves will arrive in November of 2026. So what they try to do is they try to have everything built from the floor to the receivers, all of those things, so that they can bring in the turbines, set them, and then it takes approximately 1 year for them to go from being set to being operational. It takes that long to get them all engineered, set, and ready to function. The next one is the Hannibal Energy Center. And right now, they have put down the earnest money or the down payments on 2 Titan 350s, which is right about 10% of the cost, and each one of those is $62 million. And so 6.2 times 2, $12.4 million is what they put down to get those purchased and built. They're getting built in San Diego, so there's no tariff issues that way. And so we've gotten in the queue, and we're positive about what that's done. The detailed engineering will begin in the second quarter of 2026. So come June, July, that's when they'll actually start doing that. And the targeted, the fourth quarter of 2027 is the targeted construction date. So we've got about a year and a half to go before we start seeing dirt turn. The units themselves will arrive in June of 2028. And then it'll take approximately a year, where June of 2029 is when it will become operational. We would love to have it go quicker. They've had a couple of things happen. Marshall, they have their energy center that they are building, and they actually had the turbines arrive this last week. And while it was on a truck in a box, it actually hit a bridge going under. They don't think there's any issues to it, but it's one of those things that all those lessons learned, that when it comes time for us, they can take that, almost the engineering from Marshall, and pick it up and blueprint it on ours. It'll still take a year's worth of verification and geotech and all those things to make sure it goes right. If you can imagine, there is quite a bit of engineering that goes into it to ensure that the project works. Both sites are being designed and built to accommodate possible future expansion. So this is phase one for the first 70 megawatts. If by chance there's more capacity needs in the market, then phase two, so long as people subscribe to it, then we will build the second one. Sites are to be utilized as engineering templates. They're going to be able to duplicate it in other places. They are looking at building more of these throughout the state, that the demand for capacity has not eased anything appreciably. And we're seeing if there's any ways we can speed it up and get it quicker. And right now, the main thing that's going on is they have a group that is going to come in to do the surveying of the site. And James, if he's able to speak at all about the purchase of the property, that's still being worked on. But that's between MPUA and the city, and that's still in the works.
I think the city's ready to go anytime. I think it's just going to be when MPUA is ready to go. So.
Okay, and I think that surveying and geotech work is what's going on right now.
We had talked about an earlier closing date, but then with the surveying and other stuff, I think it's been pushed out a little bit. We extended when it had to close by, but again, it's still on track as far as I know, and I think it's just an issue of MPUA getting all their ducks in a row, and they have not shared with me at least specifically when that's going to be.
Okay. The second project that we have coming up is the cured-in-place pipe. And the cured-in-place pipe is a technology which you're able to take and go into a sewer manhole, and it's like taking a sock that's fibrous, that's been covered and filled with fiberglass resin, and they run that sock inside the pipe all the way through. It comes out one manhole in the other. They cut off both ends, and then they take and inflate it. And they inflate it either with steam or hot water. And when that is inflated, it cures in place, and you end up having about a 1/4-inch piece of fiberglass pipe. You don't have to dig up the roads. You then have a machine that they can put into it, and they go through and they can find all of the connecting sewer pipes. And they take and they auger it out and cut out that piece of pipe so that all of the connections are still available and that they're able to do it. It seals up the pipe. It gives you a life of about 50 to 100 years. What we're looking at doing, and I'll have to make a correction on my notes here, from downtown Main Street to Warren Barrett Drive, it's actually going up Warren Barrett Drive for over a mile. If you want a whole lot more differentiation on the map, you can ask Matt exactly, but it's a long shot. We're going to take well over a mile. And again, that 50 to 100 years of life, we're able to go in and do all of that probably within a couple of weeks. You don't have to tear up the roads. We don't have to repave roads. It is expensive, but by the time you do the math, it's less expensive than replacing road, having to dig it all up, replacing all of the connections, etc. And so it's a fantastic technology. We're looking at using it again someday. And as we do, we'll be talking about our 5-year capital plan. But this is a technology which is very valuable, very good. And any questions?
I have a question. If this isn't going to be operational until 2029, will we just be buy-in from the market, or?
Yes. And we've done, we had to go out and we purchased some park power that is the capacity on the market. It's from renewables. And what's happened is, in order for us, we've met everything we need now, and we've had to overbuy because we wanted 5 years worth because we wanted to cover out to 2029. And it reduces every single year because solar, your renewables, that capacity, it just gets eaten away. And so for us to make sure we've got enough out here, we've had to purchase it here, and it'll actually be a benefit to us. And as that comes to fruition, we'll let you know how that goes. But yes, we have had to go out to the market and fill that in until that becomes operational. And we're conservative and gone past that 2029 June 2029 date because we don't want to be caught without coverage. Great question. That's all I've got.
If we don't have any questions, then we'll be moving right along to Matt Munslinger, operation report, please.
Good afternoon. Start off with the electric system report. As you can see here, our availability is 99.997. I've never seen it that high. We attribute a lot of that to the aggressive tree trimming that we've been undergoing since roughly 2022, and some equipment that we have deployed out in the system that allows it to automatically reset itself and not cause a large outage. As you can see, we still have quite a few squirrels that are causing outages, but these are all in locations where we have some sort of animal guard in place, and so we're rethinking which one we have installed and maybe making changes into the future. At the water plant, we had an operator get his license. Out of 6 operators up there, we now only have 1 operator who is not licensed with the state. Again, that is a experience, number of years of experience combined with passage of a test. And so that other gentleman is looking to take his test here in the near future. So hopefully we'll be back to everybody at the water plant having a license at that point. Not that it is a big deal. We can still operate under the senior operator's license, but it's just something we like to promote. That way it shows that we have a real interest in providing quality water and our operators know what they're doing. On the water distribution side, we had a few small repairs to do. We did have one large one that was on James Road. It required a large boil order because of the fact that that was one of the area that we were studying for our water loss. So we had a bunch of valves closed, allowing water to only have one entrance to that area. And in doing so, when that water main broke, it reduced the pressure below 20 psi, and we had to issue the boil order. In wastewater collection, can't remember. We had one problem on our end, and that was roots. And so that's something that they're looking at this winter. Chemically treating for roots is something you typically do in the springtime when trees come out of the winter, and are trying to grow. They'll send out the roots. They'll suck up that water from the sewer main, and that's the time which we like to treat it. And that way it'll kill the roots that are located within the pipe. And so I know Alex has been working with the supplier on that. And that is something where we'll rent equipment and do it in-house. And so they're keeping a list of areas where we've had root problems, and we'll go out and treat. On safety, we had a cold weather safety meeting. We present safety meetings once a month, 2 different classes typically. And that is something to not only adhere to OSHA guidelines, but also it helps with our insurance coverage. They like to have different topics. And so a lot of the topics are on an annual basis just to make sure that we comply with that and continue to get good scores with our insurance provider. Something we do in November as well with the safety meeting is we do fire extinguisher inspection. So everybody will bring their fire extinguisher to the safety meeting. While they're in the safety meeting, the fire extinguisher company will come and verify that all those extinguishers are still good or replace the ones that are not. And talking about cold weather or winter safety, something all of our departments did this past month was prepare for winter. We've got a lot of water pits or fire hydrants that maybe not drain adequately. And so there's a list that those departments have. They go out and winterize them, pump out the fire hydrants, install heaters and pits to make sure that our equipment does not freeze and causes problems further down the road. And then at the end, there's our business office statistics, and that's all I have to present unless you all have any questions.
What about the one out there on Palmyra Road? There was a slide off that destroyed a pipe and a fire hydrant up there by Fetty's Orchard. Anything?
It's been reported. I know that they know about it. I don't know.
Well, it's back up and functional. I just didn't know if we had any issues with that or had anything that we had to do for that.
I don't think so. I don't remember seeing it on the log sheet. The water is shut off 4 feet below grade, and then there's a shear plate in there, so they can knock that hydrant off without water coming out.
Okay.
So
So
and then we just have to replace above ground. So
what you see on TV is not actually accurate.
not with our hydrants. No. No. I won't say it'll never happen, but no.
I have a question. What happens when there is an issue with the water and the boil order? Like
What causes a boil order is where our pressure in that area would drop below 20 psi. Per regulation, the thought is if you drop below 20 psi, there is the potential that groundwater could either be sucked in to a leaky joint, or that if there was 20 psi of groundwater, it could force water back in that could contain bacteria or some other harmful pathogen. And so that's why we issue those.
So what happens in that 24-hour period?
What we'll do is we'll pull a sample in that area. We'll advise the public to boil their water during that time, and we'll do our bacteriological test at the water plant. And if it comes back positive, then the boil order is over. If it were to come back showing the presence of bacteria, then we'd have to do additional flushing and chemical dosage. You would extend the boil order until you got back a certain number of negative tests.
All right, thank you. I always wondered what happened in that 24 hours.
Yeah, we're just waiting on, it used to be 48, but they've changed the technology, and so 24 hours, they'll get an adequate sample back now.
Anybody else have any other questions of Matt's operation report? If no, please ask you to go on to projects.
The big one in the water is water loss. As I mentioned earlier, we were focusing on that between West Ely and Highway MM all the way out to Pioneer Trail and even over to Hummingbird. What we're finding is we're getting a lot of data. We're trying to interpret that data and come up with conclusions based upon the data we are receiving. We're seeing that maybe some of our meters aren't jiving with how we think it should, so it's something we're working through. Again, we just purchased this meter last year and are continuing to learn with it. We are looking, continuing to build a usage model so that the idea behind it is if you're using more in an area, it would become evident, and then you could go out and do a leak search in that area and hopefully identify that leak and correct it long before it becomes a big problem. On the sewer side of things, the downtown SSO elimination project, that's what Darren alluded to. We're doing that lining. The crew was in town in November doing the cleaning and measuring of the pipe, of the hose pipe, and they have to order the liners based upon those measurements they take during the TV and cleaning. And then they'll be back somewhere around the Christmas time, almost maybe next week or the following week, if those liners come in and do that. It should take only a couple weeks to get that done. And what they're doing is any pipe larger than 15-inch diameter, essentially from the flood wall, across Bear Creek, back up Bear Creek to Wilson Street lift station there on South 6th or Ely Street. And again, what we're trying to do is just seal out any potential for groundwater or flood water from entering the system. And that way we reserve the capacity. Most of it's 27 or 30-inch pipe, and we're trying to reserve as much of that capacity for the true sanitary sewer that we have to treat rather than groundwater that we do not have to treat. As part of that project, they will also be lining the discharge pipes from the stormwater pump station located there at Lion Street during the last flood. I don't even remember when that was. We were running and discharge out of pump 2 had water coming to the ground. And so rather than having to dig under some of the equipment there on site and disturb the levee, they're going to come in and do the same thing. We'll have the pumps pulled. They've got the discharge end that they're able to gain access to. They'll put this liner in through there, cure it, and then it'll be just probably better than new because it'll actually be a smoother surface on the inside. So we should see some efficiency in the actual pumps running and discharging that water as well. So North Street Storm Sewer, we're continuing to try to close out phase 1. Sometime after the first year, we'll continue with phase 2, which will go up Mark Twain Avenue to just west or towards the Highway 36 from 5th Street. So, and then Bear Creek Dam spillway improvements are complete, as well as Indian Mound substation. We do have a couple small items there, but nothing major. So that's all I've got, unless you all have any questions.
Where are we at with Florida?
End of the year.
End of the year, okay.
Yep, we're going to shut it off on the 31st.
Okay. Whether it's gone or not, or?
It'll be close to being gone.
Okay.
I was talking to the senior operator the other day. It's going to be low enough in the tank that we may not be able to use any of it
Pump it
anyway.
out.
So.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
Any other questions on projects from Matt? If not, we can move right along to Paul. There he is.
Well, we'll keep this thing humming along, and we'll go over the financials for November. And we've got the same setup as last month, broken out by fund between electric, water, and sewer. And I mentioned last month that I do hope to do the same type of format with the actual financial statements themselves eventually. Did not get to that this month, but hopefully we'll be able to mirror that like we do with this narrative form here. But we'll start with the electric fund. And the balance sheet cash did increase in the electric fund by $230,000 for the month. Just had a couple other small changes on the balance sheet, but our performance on the income statement in electric was a net loss for November of about $138,000. As we move out of the higher revenue summer months, we get into what we call the shoulder months, where our revenues tend to get a little bit less when people aren't using as much air conditioning or heating before we get into the winter. And so we did actually sell 1% more kilowatt hours compared to last year, but we did have net purchase power that cost us more, and it was about $127,000 more than we had budgeted for November. So where we are at year to date now in electric is a net loss, but it is better than expected. We're at about $105,000 net loss, and we had budgeted to be a $325,000 net loss. It's revenues that are carrying us right now. They're about 7% higher than expected, and kilowatt hour sales on average per month are up by about 4.7%. Net purchase power is now 9% higher than budgeted. The same trend that we've seen all fiscal year with our energy cost has continued, where it has been much higher than the previous year. That's really kind of mirroring what's happening with the natural gas price right now out in the industry, where that's been ticking up pretty much all year so far. We've also had issues with Prairie State running consistently. We have had some better reports these last couple weeks, and so hopefully they have a strong winter to take advantage of that higher energy prices so we can get some of that offset back from Prairie State. Another factor I'll point out is depreciation. It looks like on your financials that we are saving money there, and we technically are. But the reason why is because we have not depreciated anything on the Indian Mound substation yet. If you recall, we did project that to go into service a lot sooner. I think we had shot for July or August, and so with that project getting pushed back, we haven't actually capitalized it in our system. And so it looks like we haven't expensed as much depreciation as we had budgeted. But we've got, I think, 2 invoices left to pay, and then we'll capitalize it at that time and start depreciating it right away. So in electric, our debt service coverage ratio year-to-date so far is a 2.05. And if we extrapolate that out over the last 12 months, it's a negative 1.3. And so like I mentioned, we had that higher debt service coverage ratio in the summer when revenues were much higher. And though we are still having higher revenues than budgeted, we still project that debt coverage ratio to come down during those shoulder months where we're not quite bringing in as much revenue. And so that is definitely stabilized with the decrease down to a 2.05.
So Paul, the
Yep.
year-to-date is fiscal year-to-date, it's being 5 months?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. So the water fund, cash is up just slightly on the balance sheet. With the income statement, we did have a net income of $164,000 for November. That is much better than we had expected. We do show usage that was 13% higher than November of last year, and so we sold quite a bit more gallons this year. Operating expenses were less than expected. We did not have a carbon changeout in November. So where we're at year to date in the water fund is a net income of $490,000, which is higher than expected by about $102,000. Revenues are tracking right along with where we had budgeted, but it's our operating costs that are about 5% less than expected in that department. The debt service coverage ratio on water is also a 2.05 fiscal year to date, and for the last 12 months it is a 2.33. So both the electric and water funds are adequately maintaining their debt coverage ratio thus far, which is a good sign. The sewer fund, lastly, the balance sheet does show an increase to cash of about $137,000 in that fund. Looking at the income statement, we did have a net income as well of $89,000 in sewer. That was much better than expected. Unit sales were consistent in the sewer fund, but it was operating costs that were about 14% less than expected in sewer. Year to date now for the sewer fund, we have a net income of $322,000, which is just slightly better than where we expected to be. Revenues are about 1% less, and operating costs are 3% less than budgeted. In that fund, the year to date debt service coverage ratio is a 4.64, and for the last 12 months, it's a 3.49. We've got all the other information out there for you for the financial report with the check register, credit card statement, dashboard, cash reserves, and investment listing. I did want to mention real quick that we had the auditors here last month to present our draft of our financial statements. Since that time, there were no changes to our financial statements. They will be here in Hannibal tomorrow to present the City of Hannibal's audited financials. And so ours are standalone, but then they also do roll up into the overall consolidated City of Hannibal financial statements. And so once the council approves those tomorrow night, we will hopefully have a bow wrapped up on fiscal year 2025, and we'll distribute those out to all of the necessary constituents. I think that's all I wanted to cover. Is there any questions over anything with the audit or anything over the financial report?
What's the overall debt service ratio? Like, you combine them, right? Or no?
We don't, because each fund has a separate requirement. Yeah. Yep. I think I do actually combine them on the dashboard, but it really is kind of meaningless.
2.91.
Yeah.
It's only effective because of the financial instrument that's backed by whatever the asset is that's being financed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So each fund has that same 1.25 debt service coverage ratio requirement.
Yep. Any other questions of Paul's financial report? Looks again like Prairie State is blowing it out. 331,000 in credits for November.
Yeah, $331,000, which was quite a bit more than what we had budgeted. which is good. But if they had been up and running the entire month, we would have seen even a higher number than that. And so, like I mentioned, these last couple weeks have been pretty good, but it just seems like they've had one unit go down just about every week off and on. And it's typically a 24-hour, 36-hour deal where they take it down, they get it fixed, and they put it right back up. But it's just when you're missing those peak times where that energy price is spiking, it's kind of having an impact.
Is that rare for them?
You know, it's hard to define, how often. In the last 2 fiscal years before this one, I think we averaged like 94% capacity factor, which is extremely good, extremely high. So we were kind of riding on the coattails a little bit. So this is a little bit more normal, but it's probably a little bit lower than average for this fiscal year.
Isn't it 87, 86?
I was thinking it was in the 70s, but that does include the shutdown that they plan for. And so for the rest of the year, they won't have any more planned shutdowns. And so that number should creep higher and higher. But yeah, we were just really fortunate the last couple fiscal years. And so hopefully they can do better this winter to take advantage of the higher pricing.
Seems to me that there's more and more of these little pipe leaks, and there's things they've got to shut down for a day and get in, get it repaired, get it back up, and we're seeing that it's a little bit of age on it.
All right, any other questions of Paul in his financial report? If not, we can go right to new business, if that's all right, the 5-year capital improvement plan.
That'll work. It is that time of year again. This kind of kicks off our budgeting process for fiscal year, I guess it'll be fiscal year 27. And so what we do with the 5-year capital plan is Matt and Darren and I get with all the supervisors and we look at projects that we have planned for the next 5 fiscal years. And then we go through them and identify any additional needs to that plan. Most of you have been through this process, but then what happens is we ask you as the board to approve our 5-year capital plan in January, and then it actually goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission to look at along with all of the other city entities. But ultimately, it's not approved until the actual budget is approved in May. And so we've got plenty of time, but we wanted to get it in front of you just as a draft form. So we're not going to go over it in any kind of detail today. And so what you'll notice there in that draft is there's some green highlights. Those green highlights represent projects that need a little bit more scrutiny. We're nailing down some pricing, nailing down fiscal years, exactly when we want to do some of these projects. And so we're still working through that. Particularly in the electric fund, there's quite a bit of green, and that's just because Jared's been gone on vacation for a little bit, which is great for him. But we've got some of those projects that we'll look at when he gets back just to nail down timing and things like that. So I wanted to give you plenty of time to look at it. I know, Lucas, this will be your first time, I think, going through this process. And so we've got that all laid out there. We'll go over in a little bit more detail next month, but we will ask you to approve it next month. So if you do have any questions today or between now and next meeting, definitely feel free to reach out on any of those projects before we do have you approve it next month. But I will happily take any questions at this time, but we are not requesting any action tonight.
Well, if nothing sticks out to anybody.
I have a really old tow motor for sale if you want it.
Yeah.
So do we.
What's the trade-off? $3.
All right, no comments or questions, I don't think, so thank you very much, and we can move right along to
All right. Thank you.
Matt's antenna attachment proposal.
Included in the packet is an agreement with the Missouri Department of Conservation for the installation of antennas on our south side water tank that would allow them to track or monitor the bats their big focus is to Dallas, so this is perfect area for that. It would just be the installation of internet device at the base, so they could collect the data, a wire that runs up through the middle and goes out the top with an antenna located at the top. So it isn't going to harm us in any form or fashion. We've looked over the agreement. Only thing different in your agreement is it'll just change the dates, and we don't have to have city approval on this because they're not building anything on the site like the Adams County 911 was last year. So
There's no proposed revenue to be generated from these? No. I'm sure that's typical. 5 antennas altogether, huh?
I think it's up to that, yes.
Okay. What do we need, approval or somebody to?
Yeah, your approval to first.
Yep, just need your
So we should need a motion, I guess.
motion and second and vote, yes.
Make the motion to approve it.
In a second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Darren, looks like you want to talk about timing for
Yes.
January and February.
So we're going to be going into a new year, 2026. With that, we've got January and February meetings. We have our meetings on the first Monday of the third Monday of the month. Both of those are holidays. And with that, we would like to take, and what we do is we just move it to the Tuesday, the following. So on the 19th of January, that's MLK Day, we would propose moving that to the 20th. And then in February, that's President's Day, and that's the 16th of February, we'd propose moving it to the 17th. If you have any issues with that,
No,
if
I'd be
not,
perfectly fine with that because I work both those days.
okay. I'm sorry. I hope they're slow.
We hope.
And if we can have a motion that we do that, it would be great.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor
Aye.
of both of those modifications? Aye. All right. Next item is comments from the city attorney.
I have no comments.
Any general discussion? If not, I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to section 6100211-312 of Missouri Sunshine Law to convene in closed session to discuss litigation, personnel, and contracts, admitting board members Darren Gordon, Matt Munslinger, Paul Trenhale, Bev Stewart, Jamie Thompson, Courtney Harris, and the city attorney.
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Do roll call.
Yep.
Ortworth,
Yes.
Painter,
Yes.
Cookson,
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Okay, we're in closed session.
Kidding me? We're actually in closed session by 2025.